folks. Just a friendly reminder that all shows on the Madness Comic Network are produced by their individual hosts and in no way reflect the opinions of the network as a whole. The statements in the following broadcast are not necessarily the opinions of the Madness Comic Network, its staff, sponsors, or contributors. This show is rated TVMA, as are all of them and all those other letters. Viewer discretion is highly advised, and, just do what Doc says. Read that again. Peace, everybody.
I don't know why, but you are watching the Madness Comic Network. Are you mental?
There's a shop on the corner with a sign that glows. Step inside if you dare, where the oddness flows. Ancient whispers echo through the dusty air. Shelves of fallen deities, all beyond repair. Gods and services, mythical merchandise. Gods and services, wanna roll the dice. Uses in the bargain bin, thunder on the cheap. Hades sells for half off while his minions creep. Aphrodite's beauty faded over time. Now she runs the counter in this celestial five and dime. Gods and services, mythical merchandise. Gods and services, wanna roll the dice. Gods and services, wanna roll the dice. Zeus in the bargain bin, thunder on the cheap. Hades sells for half off while his minions creep. Aphrodite's beauty faded over time. Now she runs the counter in this celestial five and dime. Gods and services, mythical merchandise. Gods and services, wanna roll the dice. Gods and services, wanna roll the dice.
Get the latest fantasy horror anthology, Gods and Services New Location, from Critical Blast Publishing. Available at criticalblast.com or wherever books are sold.
Hi everyone, my name is Steve, and I'm the co-creator and co-writer of ATRIUM. I'm dropping this video to let you know that we are launching a new Kickstarter, this time to bring the ATRIUM miniseries to its heart-stopping conclusion. The ATRIUM 1-5 Kickstarter features issues 4 and 5, filled with action, suspense, and of course, vampire assassins. With the stunning reveal at the end of issue 3, issue 4 picks up seconds later, with paramedics Naomi and Darnell caught in the middle of a firefight and forced to make some difficult decisions as they attempt to deliver a donor heart to a mysterious patient. For this campaign, issues 4 and 5 will feature 2 covers each, including this gorgeous variant by Marco Rudy. The other covers are courtesy of Lucas Filappi, our incredible interior artist, and our awesome colorists, Nikos Koutsas and Mike Torres. The amount we're aiming to raise for this campaign is to cover the cost of colors, printing, and shipping. We've also included some cool stretch goals, which, once unlocked, will give you, our backers, some free ATRIUM swag. If we smash our funding target, we've got some cool bonus stretch goals that we'll add to the campaign. Once again, thanks for backing ATRIUM, and we look forward to your ongoing support to help us bring the ATRIUM miniseries to its exciting conclusion.
And good evening, Madness Comic Network. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com, myopic proofreader for Critical Blast Publishing, Chief Envelope Licker for Critical Blast Logistics, and yeah, I do other stuff too. I don't know when I get it all in, and apparently I've not been getting it all in anyway. So tonight we are live with Steve Bynoe, the creator of ATRIUM. Steve, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure. How you doing?
Cold. Cold. I don't know what happened. It was like 110 degrees just last week, and then suddenly we had a freeze warning. So
Yeah, it's the same up here. It dropped. It went from, and it kind of plays havoc on your heating system at home. Like, do you do air conditioning? Do you do heating? And then you don't know how to dress.
yeah, I know. I'm just clicking it back and forth. You know, it's like, am I cold? Turn it to heat. Am I hot now? Turn it to cold.
Yeah.
It never occurs to me to like turn it off and maybe open a window.
Yes.
Which would probably be more economical for me. But
Yeah. True.
I'm a creature of immediate need. I like that. You know, if I'm hot, I want to be cold right now. I don't want to just cool off. But actually, it's not. It's only cold at night. It's not that bad. It's at the temperature now where I can walk 6 miles instead of 1 for my afternoon treks. I like to get out on the trail out here and cut the calories down by walking through the dry leaves and scaring the squirrels.
I totally hear you.
So Steve, you've got this comic, and I've got to ask right off the bat, why make comics? I mean, it'll break your heart, as Jack said, right?
That's a great question. It's because I love it, and I think the team loves it too. Everyone here at Comic Asylum Publishing and anyone involved with ATRIUM, we absolutely love not only just the medium but also the project that we're working on. And I'm a lifelong comic book fan. I guess I was drawing them as a kid, you know, instead of doing my homework all the time. Don't tell my mom. But I would come home and draw them and make my own, you know, Fantastic Four or Spider-Man adventures. And it just kind of continued, you know, into my graybeard years. And so it's just one of those things where it's like I had to do it. I have to do it, and I have to continue to do it.
So you know, the graybeards. I feel like I'm going to relate a little bit more here because I'll have creators on like, so do you remember your first comic? And they're like, oh yeah, it was that X-Men #1 with the gatefold cover, or it was a Spawn. I'm like, you sweet summer child.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you, do you remember that first comic book?
Honestly, no.
It was just always there.
They were always there. And you know, I had like my cousins, Peter and Spencer, they had their collection that I would raid. And then, you know, I bought mine, obviously, you know, going to the variety store back in the day when you can get them for like 25 cents and 35 cents here in Toronto. And you can walk away with like 12 books. It was amazing. And so I don't remember them, but I like the first one, but I do remember certain covers from my childhood days. And one of them is an Amazing Spider-Man cover where he's in the sewer. I think it's like 151 or 152 of Amazing Spider-Man. And it's a Gil Kane cover inked by John Romita Sr. And he's yelling at a villain and all the sewer water is hitting him on his back and he's in a crouched position. I remember that one quite well. I obviously, because it was around the time, I remember like the Treasury editions.
Yes.
So Superman versus Muhammad Ali, Superman versus Spider-Man. I remember those covers. And then one that sticks out is I think my cousins had this one, which was X-Men 137. I think that's when Jean Grey died. So those are the ones that kind of stick out. But I do remember a trip to a comic book store, a local comic book store here with my dad. It's not around anymore. I think it was called Comics Unlimited. And it was Amazing Spider-Man 121, I think, or The Death of Gwen Stacy.
Oh, yeah.
Wall. And I was like, should I buy it? It's one of those ones where like you look back on it, it's like, I should have. Maybe I should have bought Google or should have bought Disney or something when it was cheap. And my dad, I think it was like $20. And my dad was like, do you want it? And I was like, nah, it's too expensive. And I walked away and shake my head about that ever since. And this was this would have been like 1980 something.
Yes, yes. and now it's actually like worth something.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a run of Spider-Man that included that issue, and then the one before it, or the one after it, which was the death of the Green Goblin, which they both stayed dead for. She stayed dead longer than he did.
Yes.
But then it was 7 issues later, after the death of the Green Goblin, that you get your first Punisher.
Absolutely.
That was I don't have them anymore. No.
Yeah, well, you know.
I want it now. I need to go back and stop myself from making stupid decisions.
That's what happens when you have a lot of time, right? You get old, you got stuff to do, you start dating, you know.
Yeah, and you start selling things to pay bills because you have bills.
Absolutely.
My bills should be, I have to pay off my comic dealer. That should be my only bill now. So at some point you decided you were going to make these on your own. What did you do when you decided you wanted to make comics? Did you just sit down with pencil and paper and say, here we go? Or did you put some study into it?
It was actually kind of interesting. It's been a circuitous route because I'm a teacher by trade. I'm a retired teacher. I left the profession about 3 years ago. And all through, as I was mentioning earlier, I was drawing comics all through public school and into high school. I would just make up my own stuff.
So you were used to taking jobs that don't make you any money.
Well, in Canada, teaching it's a little bit more lucrative. It's a good job. It's a well-paying job up here. And the comic book, that's another story altogether when it comes to making money doing comics, because it is a labor of love. But then I was introduced to Ken Lashley, I guess in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then he started a studio up here called Draxall Jump. And then I was part of that studio. I joined, I guess, near its inception. And I was there for a few years, and we worked on Rising Stars and Ghost and Legends of the DC Universe. We did, fill-in issues. So I got to see how the sausage was made, as they say, back in the day.
Rising Stars, that was the Straczynski book, right?
The Straczynski book, yeah. And Ken Lashley and then my good friend Christian Zanier was drawing it. And so you just got to see, you see what a script looked like. You saw how pages were broken down. And that was kind of like this was my version of the Kubert school, of going to the Kubert school. So I was able to kind of learn the ins and outs. And we also did toy design. We worked on packaging for Hasbro for Revenge of the Sith, as well as Transformers and G.I. Joe back in the day. And so I kind of was able to get my feet wet in the business, but also then was still teaching at the time. So this would have been late 90s, like 97, 98. And the studio didn't last, but my passion to continue in comic books did. And so because I wrote and because I drew, I was like, let me see if I can, figure this out. And some of the guys that were in the studio are still a part of the collective now that's responsible for ATRIUM.
So when you decided to do ATRIUM, first of all, you mentioned a whole bunch of superhero comics, even the ones that you just listed off now, like Rising Stars. I was like, I could not miss that. Missed a lot of them because, couldn't find stories.
That was a good book.
But yeah, it was an awesome book. But this is a horror book.
Yes.
What do you have any horror comics in your background that were particular favorites?
No, actually, I'm straight superhero, sci-fi kind of stuff. Like I didn't buy Blade or Dracula or Werewolf or even Moon Knight. I think I have maybe 2 issues of Moon Knight in my collection. But the ATRIUM came about because this was about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. A friend of ours who's a filmmaker was like, he wanted to make an independent short film. And he said, can you guys come up with an idea? And I think the one stipulation was not a lot of locations, because that would then save on a lot of the cash. And so we got together and we came up with this idea for ATRIUM. And it was a long gestating idea. And it always had kind of like a horror element, but we weren't quite sure how we were going to execute it. And then we got to a point where we're like, okay, we're ready for an artist. And finding an artist was hard. And then, we brought an artist on, and it just didn't work out. It was just one of those things where they wanted the story to go in a certain direction. and it wasn't jibing with what we wanted to do, but we were okay with, you know, whatever they were doing, because the artist is the person who's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, you know, on a project. And so we decided to part ways, and it was amicable. And because of that, we decided to retool the story quite a bit. And I kind of went to bed, thought about it for a little bit, and retooled it. And one day I was on Twitter before it became X, and a writer put an all call out for portfolios because they were looking for an artist. I guess that's kind of like the bane of the existence of any writer, is like, I've got all these ideas, but I have no way to turn them into sequential pages.
And Diesel did the stick figures, so I can't do it too.
Exactly. And so I ran across Lucas Falapi's his post on the thread, and had a link to his portfolio, and I loved what I saw. And Lucas is out of Brazil, Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I then, you know, took his stuff to the guys, to the team here, and they were like, "Yeah, we like it." So I contacted Lucas. He was game, and he's been a pleasure to work with ever since.
Well, let's bring the campaign to the stage here and take a look at it. You are, by the way, funded, and I don't think
Yes.
you were yesterday when I looked.
Yeah, we actually funded in under 30 hours, which was great. And now we're just, you know, hoping to get some more backers and unlock some stretch goals before it's all over.
5 days to go.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the deal, folks. If you're watching the stream and you've already backed this, do not back out. Don't do that to me. I don't like it when the numbers go backwards when guests are on the show. It's happened.
Anything's possible, for sure.
But we want to get that backer count up. So let's talk about what this is, because this is the full enchilada now. This is, you know,
yes.
If you haven't seen any of it, I'm sure you can go back and get the first handful of issues before 4 and 5 here.
Yeah, you can get 1, 2, and 3 as add-ons in this campaign, and this is for 4 and 5. So essentially, what we've done, this is the third campaign for this miniseries. It's a 5-issue miniseries. The first campaign was for issue 1. And then we thought about it, and we decided to put 2 and 3 together because we wanted to save our backers the cost of shipping. Because if we did 5 issues and 5 different campaigns over the stretch of the campaign, of all the campaigns, it would be a lot for backers, a lot of extra cash for backers. So then we decided after 2 and 3 was successful that we'd package 4 and 5 together. And you can most definitely catch up on the digital versions, as well as all of the variant covers that we have for issues 1, 2, and 3, and then hop on the train, so to speak, and get the conclusion of this miniseries with issues 4 and 5.
Okay. Now, I know what an atrium is when it comes to a building.
Right.
I have a feeling that that's not the same kind of atrium here. And if it is, I need to know why it's scary.
Atrium, it's kind of funny because we had another name previously. And then it was, you know, we just decided to change it when we retooled the story. And, you know, with the introduction of the heart that Naomi, who you see in the image there, the paramedic, one of the paramedics in the story, because that's such a vital part of the story, I was looking to see if there was something that we could kind of connect to hearts or the medical industry. And because, you know, you have, you know, valves in a heart, and, you know, the subway is kind of like the heart of a city, and the tunnels are the arteries of any kind of transportation system. I went with atrium because it kind of, you know, touches on all of that.
So she's carrying a heart through the subways. I'm guessing that is the crux of the story, is the getting this heart where it needs to go.
Yes. So essentially, it's about 2 paramedics, Naomi and Darnell, who are tasked with delivering a donor heart to an important but mysterious patient. En route, they are intercepted along with their security detail by a group of deadly assassins who are vampires. And so their ambulance gets disabled. They then have to scramble into the subway system. And then en route, the subway blows up, and then they have to find their way back onto the city streets before it's too late.
You had me at vampires. Vampires chasing down a heart. That feeds me all kinds of plot ideas about why they're trying to stop this thing, and who it is that's possibly getting it.
Yeah, there are a lot of twists, there are a lot of turns, some great suspense. If you like Heat, the Michael Mann movie, there's some great shootouts in the street, and then there's some close, hand-to-hand combat, vampire style, when you're on the subways.
So, what kind of vampires do you have? Because there are multiple flavors of them now.
Yes, most definitely. I don't want to give away too much, but our vampires follow some of the rules, some of the established rules, and there's some tweaks that we have because vampires play an integral part in the world that we're building. We don't really get into it too much in issues 1 through 5. This is more about Naomi and Darnell's quest to complete their mission. But there's some twists and turns that link them to not only what's going on now, but also to the broader world that we're building. And so there's some things that, if you're, depending on what kind of vampire fan you are or stan you are, you're going to probably raise your eyebrow a little bit, a Spockian eyebrow. But we're playing with some of the tropes and hope to have some fun with it.
So is this a world where Naomi and Darnell are we have vampires on our tail, or more like, holy crap, vampires are real?
It's a mix. So it's not wide known that vampires exist, but a good set of people do know. And there's a I don't want to give it away because it kind of gets revealed in issues 4 and 5 as to why they were asked, and also the role that that they were I guess assigned to, why they are so important for it. I don't want to give it away because it's kind of like one of those things that it's part of the world building, but like the average human being, not necessarily aware of vampires. And it gets into it, like a lot of the lore and a lot of the myths as to like, if you do live forever, what does that entail? Like what would it be like if you were a vampire? And does that then make time and your connections and your relationships like meaningful? So we kind of play with that a little bit. And obviously the world hangs in the balance. The safety of the world and the way that society's built hangs in the balance if they don't get the heart delivered on time.
You mentioned a couple of times here the world building of ATRIUM. So I'm going out on a limb here and saying that 5 is not the last story in this world.
We don't plan it to be. It obviously will depend on the kind of feedback and reception we're going to get for 4 and 5. So far, issues 1 through 3, the response that we've gotten not only from our backers but also from people when we go to conventions has been like really, really positive. And once you hear like you said earlier, you have me at vampires. Once people hear the pitch or whatever the little elevator pitch would be, they're quite stoked and trying to figure out, so where's this going to go? And we've got some kind of neat little wrinkles that we're putting into the world, and some things that are kind of obvious, but then not as obvious. But once they kind of come to light, you're like, oh, okay, that's an interesting take on the kind of society and environment that we're building.
So if you want to expand or continue into this world, would you be looking at ATRIUM number 6 or a whole new title? If a whole new title, then what is your universe?
No, we'd call it ATRIUM. We'd continue it in 6. The one thing I will say to anyone who's read the first 3 issues already know this: don't fall in love with anybody, because anyone can go at any moment. There are a lot of red shirts. To quote Star Trek, there's a lot of red shirts in this one.
Nice, yeah. Okay, shippers beware. This is.
You know what? It got to the point where I think it was after Lucas got issue 2, right? He got issue 2, and then he was drawing in the middle of drawing it, and then he emailed me. We had a conversation, and he's like, "Man, I enjoyed drawing that person," right? And I that's when I kind of knew, all right, okay, fine. I'm sorry that I disappointed him. But the fact that he was invested in the characters that he was drawing meant that, all right, this thing's gonna work.
Hello, Mike. No, it's not a rare live stream. I've been doing them all week long. I just haven't been going to YouTube. I've been doing it all on Twitter for a while. But I'm gonna use this pipeline for a while now, and then they will become rare. We're gonna go down to just a day a week doing live streams with people. Now that my calendar has opened back up, because I was going nuts for a while. I tell you, when I first started doing live streams,
Mhm.
it was easy money. All you had to do was talk on YouTube and get hours. I did like 12-hour streams on a Saturday,
Oh,
interviewing
wow.
12 people 1 hour at a time, just boom, 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 and got the hours needed. And then YouTube changed their rules and said, yeah, that money you were making. I'm like, what, that $100 every 14 to 15 months?
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, we're not going to give you that no more. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, pressure's off. I'll just go back to living my life.
Yeah, they did change. I had a stream last night, and it's just interesting because I'm new to the streaming game, and I use the same platform that you do, but I don't stream to X. And it's like, I commend you. 12 hours straight. That's amazing.
Oh, it was fun. I did another one on my birthday. That was pretty much the same thing. But it was easy. It's just sitting in the chair and talking. And apparently, as you sit in the chair, gravity pulls things into your body. And then it's hard to get out of the chair. And I ended up bulking up to 265 pounds sitting in a chair. Yeah, wow. I couldn't walk to the mailbox without going, I want to die. So I changed that lifestyle a bit.
Right. Or you might have to just do it on a treadmill next time.
Well, I'm doing a gym. I'm doing keto. I'm just
good.
But
yeah, that's the thing though. Like you see it with a lot of comic book artists. It's really hard. Like it's a hard lifestyle because you're sitting in a chair, you're drawing for 16 hours or whatever. And some artists are not in the kind of shape that they should be just because of the rigors of the job.
Yeah. And Pops used to do every month, at the end of every month, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, nonstop almost.
Wow.
It was till 11 o'clock at night, and then it would start up again at 7 in the morning.
Wow. That's amazing.
It was an online convention that basically started during COVID. It was like, hey, let's replace the convention with the convention, and just artists and guests and people selling their stuff. And I miss CromCon, but I appreciate the toll that it took on you, Pops, and I don't blame you for not having it anymore. It was the birth of all of this stuff. So I'm looking at the books here. You got alternate covers, but it doesn't look like you've gone overboard with alternate covers. Just two, it looks like, if I'm correct.
Right. Yeah, we went overboard in the previous campaign, and you'll see them when you scroll down further on into some of the other tiers. But we had, I think, we had 3 covers for issue 2, so an issue A, B, and C, and then issue 1. So I think we had 4 for issue 2, we had 3 for issue 1, and then we went back to 3 for issue 3. And then, like, it looks great on a table, but then it's kind of like we decided just to scale it down for 4 and 5, just have a main cover and a variant. And we're really lucky because Lucas has knocked it out of the park for our covers, our main covers, and he's done it again for issues 4 and 5. And then for issue 5, we have a variant cover by Marco Rudy, who has done work for Marvel and DC. So our covers, we're really proud of our covers. And it's kind of interesting too, because like when I started, I was like, nah, you know what, let's just do single issues, no variants. And then we got some advice, and we were told, you know what, do variants, because the fans and backers like variants. And it's crazy because the ones that we thought would sell are not the ones that sell. It's unbelievable how the audience decides, and the creators are just like, there's no magic. There's no magic to figure it out.
Now, the one I'm fulfilling now is just 2 different books, but there's like 9 variations of one.
Wow.
And 7 variations of 2. And then, of course, so basically I'm fulfilling 16 books, and it mixes and matches. I'm like, okay, this order is going to look.
How's fulfillment treating you?
It's the money. That's where the money's at. I've been told, and I have to agree with them, that like everybody's going into comics to get rich, like it's the gold rush of 1849, and I'm the guy in San Francisco selling pickaxes.
Right.
that's where the money is. All you guys, you keep making comics all you want. Let me ship them for you. We'll take care of that part.
Yeah, you know what's interesting though? You make a good point. When it comes to fulfillment, I don't think that a lot of creators take into consideration how much work and also how expensive printing and shipping is. Like that is a beast unto itself. I had a chat with Marco Rudy when he was doing his Kickstarter for his book, and he was like, "Man, it's a lot." And I had no idea. Like I empathize with him, but it wasn't until I had to do it myself where I was like, "Man, that's a lot."
It is a lot, and and if you're just used to making comics and selling comics, I talked with Carl Kiesel about this.
He's great.
Oh, I've got Impossible Jones. My hardcover just came in the other day.
Nice.
Thank you, Carl. Love your work. But I was asking him, it's like, you've done the thing for DC before. You know what it takes to do a comic every 30 days. What happens? What's different? Like, well, for one thing, it's not my 9-to-5 job anymore. it's because it doesn't pay that well to be my 9-to-5 job. And there is a lot of other moving parts. It's you've got to do all of them. You've got to be everybody from Jeanette Kahn all the way down to the mail boy.
Yes. Yeah, it's in, and then doing. I was reading something on X. I think it was a Ron Mars post where he was talking about having to do promotion and how extensive it is, and that every creator, whether you're working for the big two or at Image or you're doing your own Kickstarter, that's a big deal. Like that's a big part of it. And in some cases, I'll almost argue that making the book is the easiest part. Everything else is hard.
Yeah. Promotions is a drag, and it's you put sometimes you put a lot of effort into promotion, and you don't see any real payback come back. We did a book, it was a horror anthology. I was like super stoked about it. Everyone loved the artwork that was going into it. I took out a full page ad in a horror magazine, a globally distributed horror magazine with like real circulation numbers. I didn't see a bump at all.
Right.
So I'm like, well, that was, $300 and something down the drain. But, and it wasn't you, Wayne. Your books are different. Man, I've got a big old note right here that says, what am I doing right now? It says, Mike Baron, UFO book, Gods and Services, and Don't Be Cruel. I am.
There you go.
And they're all priority number 1 right now. I'm just gonna put them all in one book. I think just
make it an anthology.
Yeah. Well, no. The anthology is where for people on the Madness who haven't seen my show since I've been away from the Madness, we've been reaching out to crowdfunded creators who have reached the end of a particular run of a story, and they're at the end of it now. We're like, hey. What are you going to do with that? You're going to, put it in a trade paperback? You want to have it sold in Amazon and Walmart and Barnes and Noble and Books A Million and Powell's and the corner bookstore? That's what we do. All of our books are listed like that. So we're also reaching out to people like Henry Vogel, who did the Aristocratic Extraterrestrial Time Traveling Thieves.
Very cool.
We got the entire run here in a trade paperback. We did it in hardcover, paperback, and even digest size. Remember the digest?
Wow. Absolutely. I think DC's going to those right now.
Yeah, they're going back to that. Yeah. They're going to something a little bigger than the digest. They're going to like the 5x8s.
Yes.
But the Blue Ribbon digests were fantastic. I love those things.
I just remember as a kid seeing Archie books at that size. Like,
and they still make Archie.
Yeah, they still make Archie. So like when you were going to the checkout, when you would go shopping with your mom or whatever, there would always be an Archie book right there.
I think that's still their biggest moneymaker at Archie.
You might be right, actually.
It's because there's like 5 or 6 of them a month at Walmart, and they're not cheap.
No,
they're close to $10 a piece now.
No,
but we're doing that, and Henry was so pleased with what we did with X Thieves that he gave us his next biggest seller, which was Southern Nights.
Oh wow!
And we're we're a hair's breadth away from getting. So we were almost done with it. We were at 1,000 pages. Our limit's 1,200 for a single book. This thing's going to be the Chicago phone book of 1980. and we're like, we can see the finish line. We're getting there. And what happens? But Jennifer Kraft, who's co-owner of the series, says, "Hey, I was just going through a bunch of David's old things, and I found all this artwork." She's sending it to us. Like we basically probably just added another 50 pages to this book just in fresh artwork alone.
Well, that's great though, because that's going to be a draw for other backers and readers.
Well, yeah, and it's backers. Ooh, should we crowdfund it in a hardcover format, or should we just go straight to the market? I think we'll go straight to the market.
Those are all the decisions. Those are all the decisions as a creator that you got to think about, right? And as a publisher. Yeah.
I mean, we do work with crowdfunder people too. You know, they say how much is it going to cost to print, so they know what to crowdfund for. And today's the 17th, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. In about 5 days, somebody's going to be announcing a crowdfunder, and it's going to be our book. And I can't tell you because it's up to him to
make the announcement.
I can't jump the gun on him. So looking at the art here, let's get back to the story.
Sure.
This is the transport of the heart in the ambulance.
Yes.
And it doesn't make it. It's always another truck. It always surprises me how somebody can plan in advance so far. The ambulance is going to be crossing this intersection at about this time. Make sure you get enough speed going up so that you can catch it right in the intersection. Like I would never. I'd be like, I hear it. There it is. Step on the gas, and I'd be like, they're gone, and I'd be going through the intersection, and I would get hit.
Yeah, it's I guess a series of unfortunate events because they were anyone who's read issue 1, they were supposed to take a helicopter to the heart was at one location, and they were supposed to take a helicopter to the hospital for the operation, but due to terrible lightning and high winds, because it's in the city, they decided to take an ambulance instead, and then that actually is what leads them into all the calamities that they end up running into. Yeah, so those are just random pages from the first couple of issues, just to give everyone an idea of what anyone who's new to ATRIUM, what the finished look will be. So what you're seeing there are the colors provided by Nikos Koutsis and Mike Torres, and our wonderful colorists. They actually color for Savage Dragon. They're Eric Larson's colorists.
I love this clean style of artwork here. This is I say it's a realistic style. I know it's not Alex Ross realism kind of style, but it's not cartoonish. I lose it when things become more caricaturish in comics.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The thing with Lucas's work is that it's kind of grounded in realism, and it's also got like a feel to it, a grittiness to it, and we felt that it would work really well with the subject matter of the story, especially stuck in subway tunnels for 2 or 3 issues. And so he plays with blacks really, really well. And I just love his line work. So whenever I would get the pages back after giving him the script, I'd be like, ooh, okay, this is great. And there's a sequence in issue 4, I think to end issue 4, where everyone on the team is like, man, that reads really, really well.
There's a scene here that I'm looking at, and it's a callback to the cover. And I was going to mention when the cover was up there, and now that I've seen it repeated here, I'm definitely going to mention it. Naomi's wearing a crucifix over her paramedic outfit.
Yes.
Is that an important part of her character, or is that a handy plot device because vampires?
Both.
Okay. I mean, it's obviously a handy plot device because, hey, got this with me here.
Yes.
Can't touch this.
Yes.
But is she represented as somebody who's like whose faith is important to her?
Oh, her faith is definitely important to her. Yeah, it's definitely important to her. It's not something that we kind of beat anyone over the head with, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like we're just laying out the groundwork that they're and if you get into the text as well too, there are all sorts of people on that train. Just like, if you live in New York or a small town or whatever, you're going to run across a lot of people who you may not know them, but they may have things in common with you, and other things maybe not so much. But there's a wide range of personalities and people, and so we just wanted to make sure that a lot of people were represented in this world. But so when the twists and turns happen, it encompasses everybody. Everyone's kind of wrapped up into it.
So here's the preview of issue 4.
Yeah.
Oh man, this line work is killer.
So it's kind of interesting because I was having, thank you, really appreciate that. And I was having a conversation with Vaughn Joseph, who does the design work. He created the logo, and he also puts the book together for printing. And he's fantastic at what he does. And we were just talking about, so like, what do we do next? Because we got the 5, we'd love to do a graphic novel. And then we're talking about it today, and I go, what if we just did a black and white version? So we were kind of toying with that. And when you see Lucas's line work without the colors, you're like, it works. Because I know they did the Batman black and white. DC released those a long time ago, and they were amazing, right? Like Brian Boland drew in them, Mark Silvestri did some of the stuff. And, you know, you look at some of the stuff, like, I'm not saying that Lucas is Bernie Wrightson, but you look at like some of Bernie Wrightson stuff, it's great in color, but just his line work, black and white stuff, is stunning. And
sometimes
I think
the color will mute stuff out.
Absolutely. Right. And Lucas uses a lot of like gray tones and electrotones. That's so like on certain pages, that gives you enough information and that's all you really need. And then also too, looking at it here, it also gives the feel of like an old movie, an old black and white horror movie.
A little bit of a police noir kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
It's stick around after the show. I want to show you something. You talk about that.
Most definitely.
So you know, no letters on this yet, which is cool. We can still tell what's going on, and that's when you know you got a good comic, good sequentials. When the lettering is almost superfluous. Yeah,
it was kind of interesting. We had a review not too long ago. I think it was for issues. It might have been the first 3, but maybe it was just for the first one. And the reviewer said one of the interesting things about this book is that in certain spots there's very little dialogue, and normally that would make you race through an issue. But what this was it allowed the story to breathe. And I was like, I turned to my co-writer, Peter Van Horn. I was like, okay, I think we achieved what we wanted to, because this is kind of dating myself aside from the beard. We were big Miami Vice fans when we were younger. And there were scenes where like Crockett and Tubbs would be just driving in the car and no dialogue was said, but the tension was being built up and a lot of storytelling was happening just with them traveling. And we wanted to be able to kind of, in some ways, not have dialogue kind of clutter the artwork or the moment, and just let Lucas do his thing and also let the story breathe.
This fight scene here, I've just been following it for pages now. It's like, yeah, this is brutal.
Yeah, and that's the grittiness that I was mentioning earlier that Lucas is able to convey. And it's one of those things where I remember when we were kind of going through issue 4, it was either issue 4 or maybe issue 3, but I think it was issue 4. And I was starting to kind of like look at the pages and reading the script along with it. And I was like, yeah, this works. Yeah. And I was kind of feeling the excitement of like, okay, what we're doing is kind of working. And this response we've gotten from our backers or anyone that we run into at a convention legitimizes that, because they're like, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm back for issues 2 and 3.
So I scrolled down to where the rewards are here because we want to, get this in before the show's over.
Yeah.
You can get the digital copy, folks, for $7 Canadian. Don't worry, that's only like $5 in real money, people.
Yeah, in the all green stuff. In the all green stuff for sure.
But that's not the final cover, so we're covered there. Looks like she's pregnant, or she's just holding her belly. But
no, she's pregnant. That lady, the lady that you saw Naomi talking to in the train earlier.
Yes,
that's the same one, and yes, she is pregnant.
Okay, raise the stakes just a little bit more there.
Just a little bit. little bit. And not to ruin it for anyone, because anyone who's read the books already, you already know this. Naomi, her partner, is expecting. And so that's where their connection comes.
We can figure it out. We can do the math from there.
Absolutely.
So we got you can get the digital copy of 4 or 5 or 4 and 5. Math makes sense. It's $14 Canadian. But let's get down here to the paper covers, because I like to hold them in my hands.
Yeah.
So this is $15 in Canadian. I'm going to scroll down here so we can do the conversion for me. So it's about $11 for a comic, which is how many pages is this issue?
It's 24.
Okay.
But you're also getting the digital version as well too. And if you buy them in a bundle, then we shave off some cash as well too. So if you buy the 4-5 bundle, it's I think it's like $25. I'm not quite sure. I have to double check.
Yeah. So basically, it's $10 for the issue. It's speaking in American, it's $10 for the issue, and it's less than that because you're getting the digital with it. So
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember when crowdfunded comics were 28 pages for $30.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we were kind of looking at in terms of our pricing, and we even run into that when we're at a convention where we're like, well, maybe we're priced too low. But I know how hard it is. Like, it's a tough economy, and asking someone to part with $25 to $30 for, which is basically like $1 a page, to ask someone to do that on a book that, like, you have no track record with them, it's a hard ask. And so it's like, our campaigns aren't, where we're bringing in 1,000 backers or 500 backers, but anyone who has backed us, we are eternally grateful. The people that we've met at conventions and have picked up copies, eternally grateful. The book doesn't exist without them. And, the fact that they have the faith in us to get us to issue 5 is remarkable.
Yeah, and as long as you're making a profit and not going in the hole, and you're happy with the profit, then you're not under marketing.
Nope.
Same prices hold true for a cover B. I was looking to see, because sometimes it's like, hey, you want cover A? It's like $10, but we got this guy to draw cover B, so that's like $50.
No, we only did that in the second campaign for 2 issues. One, we did a foil cover. It's in the ATRIUM 1 to 3 campaign. And so it's an issue where the cover has 2 characters reflected in blood with 2 guns, right? It's really well put together. And we just did a foil variant. We did our printing out of San Antonio with Brenner, and they did a great job with the cover. And so that cover, because we only did 50 of them, that's why that one was way more expensive than the regular.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just,
totally.
Especially, if you like, hey, we got John Buscema to draw something for us.
That's going to cost, because to get that kind of artwork is going to cost. Absolutely. And there's the Marco. That's the Marco Rudy cover.
That's a beautiful cover.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the Blob. I know it's just this big blob of blood, and it's like faces coming out of it.
The blood's alive.
That's scary stuff. You can get it in the bundle. You can get 4 and wait a second. You can get A and different bundles. Both copies of 4 for $19. Both copies of 5 for $19. And again, I'm still speaking in American dollars here. I'm looking for the bundle that's like, I want to read both issues. So here we are.
So there's the 4-5. There's the 4-5 print bundle.
And that's all copies. That's all 4 different print covers. So, okay, $33, 4 comics, reading copy and bagging copy, because you're gonna have a favorite that you want to put away.
And with all of these, you can get issues 1 to 3, both digital and print, as add-ons.
That's the cool thing. Now, is it or you can get it as the bundle right here too.
Yeah, you can get the 1 to 5 bundle, which is every cover that we've done except for the 2 limited run variants.
So if you don't want every cover, then just pick the 2 covers you want, and then you'll get an add-on screen where you can add on the a cover of 1, a cover of 2, and a cover of 3. Are there any other special items back there in the back store? You know, what are you keeping in the back that we don't see up here in the front? You know,
nothing at this point, but we are working on like I don't want to announce it just yet, but it's something that we're toying with. Maybe doing it as when because the campaign ends on Tuesday, I think, which is the 22nd, or maybe it's the 21st. I'm not quite sure. And I don't think that'll give us enough time to put it as a stretch goal, but we might put it as a late pledge option. And we're just it's going to be something that is a 3D tangible object that represents the story quite well. And so we're just waiting to get the final specs on it. And I took a look at it I guess a couple of days ago, and it's fantastic. So I can't wait to announce it, but I'm gonna have to hold that back. But we'll see how it goes.
All right, you got decent shipping prices on here. I know my shipping costs.
Yeah, and it's amazing because it was Carl that told us about Chit Chats, and that's who we ship through. Like he was quite generous with his knowledge, and so we went through that.
I wondered who was in Canada doing that.
Yeah,
because it's like I use Pirate Ship for buying my postage.
Right,
it's not available outside the U.S.
Yeah, no, it's kind of interesting. Like the border kind of stops you from being able to take advantage of certain outlets that kind of help your business model along, and so you got to dig into the weeds or find people that have done it before. And it doesn't hurt to ask. The one thing about the comic book community, I'm sure you know this as well too, it's a pretty generous community in terms of giving and disseminating information. There's not a lot of gatekeeping when it comes to like, hey, you want to know how to do this? Hey, I'll help you with aspects of your crowdfunding that you might not have all the answers to. It's really a welcoming community.
Yeah, very, very few, and I haven't so few that I've never run into it. Nobody's going to sit there and say, "What do you mean you want to know where I print my comic books?"
Yeah, exactly.
Where I print my comic books.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's usually like, yeah, this is who I print it with. We'll talk. I'll get the information from you later.
Yeah, because the indie comics community realizes more than the other higher up. The mainstream. And honestly, the mainstream realizes it too. They just won't acknowledge it. That the rising tide raises all boats. If there's more
absolutely.
indie creators out there, there's more readers out there. More readers out there, the bigger your audience is. So
absolutely, most definitely.
Raises your customer base. So we've reached the end of the stream, folks. If you did not hit the link, it's right there. It's been scrolling along here forever, and I know that Pops has it in the chat. Go hit it up there. It's also, if you're watching it on Critical Blast YouTube channel, it's in the description right below the video. It's the very first thing. Just click it. It wouldn't even take you away from the video. You could listen the entire time and throw money at it. Nobody, well, maybe they did. I don't know. I didn't check the numbers at the beginning. You got 28 backers. I think that's where we were when we started.
Yeah, we're at the same amount, but you know what? We'll let people let it
so
soak in.
I wasted an hour of your time. I did
absolutely
you absolutely no favors.
No, this is great. I enjoy talking ATRIUM. And since I'm with someone who can do 12 hours of chatting on a live stream, I'm just happy to be in your presence. It's all good.
I'll do it again sometime, but not anytime soon. All right, everybody in the chat, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. We don't have a show without you. We're just a podcast falling in the woods otherwise. So, we're happy that you're here. We're glad you keep coming back. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night, everybody.